palette from Hindash. This is called the Beautopsy Palette. And if you guys have been with me for a minute, you know that Hindash is one of my favorite makeup artists on YouTube. And I love him and Andrea Lee. Like, I could go down the list on the makeup artists that I absolutely love to watch. So when I saw that he was launching his own palette, I had to grab it. It was a no-brainer for me. And this palette retails for $70. The unique thing about this palette is that, yes, you have 6 bars, but you can actually create 24 different shade variations within this palette. Now, I thought this palette was very unique for several reasons, but first of all, I just have to say that I love that it folds into like a book. I live for those little things, right? Those little details that matter. But the one thing that I will say that I really like about this palette is it's just very simple. Now, I don't know if you guys are like me, but I have experienced many times what they call palette blocking, and I get blocked by palettes. If the shadows are not arranged in a way that makes sense, I cannot get creative in it. As you guys know, I am not a makeup artist. I'm just a 41-year-old makeup enthusiast, right? So for me, I needed to come at this with, you know, not having any kind of makeup artistry experience and see how this palette performs for somebody like me that's just pretty much an everyday makeup user. The only difference is I turn on the camera and do it in front of a camera, but I wanted to see if this is easy for the everyday person to use. Now you can see that I've created 2 different eyeshadow looks. And this one obviously is just a solid matte eye, and I did that obviously to kind of play with the mattes and see how they blend together. But on this eye, you will notice that I have some shimmer on the lid because truthfully, on a personal level, with a palette that's all matte, I am more than likely going to use this in conjunction with other like cream shadows. Normally I love to use my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize, the little pot shimmer shadows that are cream. So pretty much when I pull for a solid matte palette, it's to use in conjunction with either a singles eyeshadow or a single shimmer or a cream shadow or something like that. So I wanted to kind of go ahead and put it over top of cream shadows to see how it blends into cream, in case that was something that you guys would use it for too. So I kind of just wanted to play around with it and see how it works, see how it performs. Lots to say about this palette. I also wanted to mention that this palette is made in Italy, but it's assembled in China. So the actual pigments themselves are made in Italy, and then everything is assembled in China. I love this packaging because it's so sleek, so easy to store, right? It's flat, it's black, you see it, you know what it is. The other thing that I will say is I love that he chose the shade black because especially when you're using shadows like this, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but whenever I'm using a palette that has a lot of color for the packaging, let's just say that the packaging was like a green or a yellow color, for me, it will throw off what the colors are in the eyeshadows. So I'll dip my brush in thinking it's going to be one color, and then when I put it on the eye, it's completely different on the eye than it is in the palette. Because the color of the packaging throws and kind of changes the tone of the eyeshadow, I love that he chose black because then I know exactly what these pigments are and I know what I'm going to get when I dip into them. So I love that he chose black. I will also mention you can use this on the eyes and the face, but I just decided not to scare you guys with my contouring. You guys know I am terrible at powder contour. I mean, it's pretty much already been established how many times I've botched a powder contour application. You guys know I'm a cream contour kind of girl, so I didn't even attempt to use this for contour or bronzer, but I did, however, use it for blush. I think it applied beautifully for blush, but mostly I wanted to focus this, using this on the eye, see how easy it is to use, and yeah, that's what we're doing in today's video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the 2 eyeshadow tutorials that I did using this palette. And then of course, I will jump into some swatches and comparisons. You guys know I love to do swatches and also compare the palette to multiple different palettes that I have in my collection that might be similar. And then of course, I will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right into this new palette from Hindash. This is so pretty. and so simple. I love the simplicity of it. And I feel like, me not being a makeup artist, right? I'm just a makeup enthusiast, love makeup. This feels very approachable because of the way that the shades are laid out. So it's not intimidating at all. It almost feels like anybody could use it. You know how there are some of those palettes out there that are just so intimidating, and you open it up, you're like, okay, now what am I gonna do with this? Let's go ahead and jump into this palette. Well, my lip gloss has left my lip line. It's left the building. So all I have on as far as makeup goes is I have foundation, my brows done, and I did put down the the NARS Soft Matte Concealer as the base. And I have set it with a little bit of translucent setting powder, but I'll probably go over it a little bit with something in this palette. I'm gonna go into the shade Feel, this one right here. It's kind of just that really pretty like neutral brown. So I'm just gonna kind of use that to kind of create the dimension in the crease. Okay, so as you noticed, I got really good pigmentation. I mean, this is a more dense brush, densely packed brush, so I got good pigmentation. This shade is blending out super soft. So I kind of placed it down and then was able to just kind of blend it out. And I mean, it worked great. I'm gonna grab my 204 brush from BK Beauty, and I'm gonna go into Intra, which is this first one right here. I'm just gonna place this like right out here on this outer corner. Okay, so I'm gonna go right between Intra and Futum. Futum, I think. So I'm gonna go like right here where it's a little darker. And again, kind of layer that right out here. Going over top of what I already did just to kind of build that depth. Then I'm gonna go back to the Esom brush and I'm gonna pick up the shade Feel. And I'm just gonna use that shade to kind of blend this into the crease. So I'm gonna leave that there for a minute because I don't have any concealer on, so I will be kind of cleaning up this line right here. And then it will kind of all come together, but everything blended beautifully. I'm not having any issues. So far, so good. So I'm actually gonna grab the Smith 253 brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Wet, which is this one right up here. I'm gonna dip my brush into it. It feels such a soft texture. Like there's no fallout with these either. Like these are very soft formulas. I'm putting that right there on the lid just to kind of brighten it up. I mean, that pigment is there. Now I'm going to take like a small Sigma, let's see, this is the E21 brush. I'm going to grab the shade Feel right here, and I'm going to use that to kind of blend this into this outer corner. Just kind of like softly connecting those two shades together. I'm going to keep this brush in my hand, and I'm going to use the shade Feel right here. I am going to kind of carve out this inner crease right on the fold of my eye. I'm going to kind of add a little bit more dimension right there. And then I want to fill in this gap right here. So I'm going to grab that shade. I always have to check to make sure I'm in focus because sometimes my camera likes to focus on my mirror I'm holding. So if you guys see me looking in the monitor, it's because my camera plays tricks and focuses on things I don't want it to focus on. Ugh, you guys never see that because I always delete the footage, but it's such a pain in the butt. I need to get a better camera at the end of the day. That's what it boils down to. Okay, so I went ahead and threw on some concealer. Let's work on the lower lash line, and this time I'm gonna work dark to light. So I'm gonna grab that same Sigma smudge brush. I'm gonna go into the shade Intra. I'm gonna kind of keep this really close to the lash line. Switch to that BK Beauty 204. And I am going to dip between Intra and Feel so that they're kind of mixed together. And I'm just going to kind of bring this along here. I'm going to use the shade Phantom, but I'm still kind of picking up Intra. Intra? Yeah, Intra. And I am going to focus that like really, really close to the lash line. Kind of making it a little bit darker out there. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here up on the upper lash line. I'm just kind of creating a little bit of definition right up here just to make it really kind of dark and smoky. Nothing is better than using an all matte palette and having the mattes just blend so easily. I'm kind of doing a Hindash moment. You know how he kind of pulls the shadow and kind of lifts the eye? Okay, so I just decided to just throw mascara on and not put any lashes on because when you're wearing an all matte eye, I don't feel like I need lashes. I love it. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to this eye, but I wanted to use this palette in conjunction with like a shimmery shade, you know, just so that I can, because for me, I don't wear a lot of just solid matte eyeshadow looks. For me, they take a little bit longer than I want to on eyeshadow. So I want to use this palette in a way that I would normally use it. Meaning that if I was using my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize, which are my favorite cream eyeshadows. I've used this rose gold so many times. So I like to use a undyed goat hair brush with these pigments. And this is actually the Sonia G Worker Pro. And I'm just gonna grab a little bit of it. The trick with this is, number one, not using very much. If you use too much, it will crease. Number two, I like to put it on a base that's been set with some sort of powder. It seems like it helps it to kind of stay in place where the oils, the powder kind of helps to block some of the oils on the eyelid from coming through and making the cream pigment crease. But truly the trick is just not using very much of it. Just going in, slowly building it and using as little as possible, but still using enough to, you know, have it show up. So I just kind of take small little strokes and just kind of build it. I will also say I didn't go in with concealer because when you're using a new palette, you never know if you're going to get like a bunch of fallout, right? So I can tell you I'm not getting any fallout from this palette. I think this palette might be pretty much fallout free. I'm just going to take a blending brush. This is actually the Wayne Goss number 20. It's more of a smaller brush. And I am going to mix between this shade, which is Boy, and Feel. I'm just going to kind of mix the two shades together. And kind of use it to blend it out. I'm going to take a smaller pencil brush and I'm going to go into the shade Feel. And I'm going to kind of bring that right here on the outer corner just to kind of add a little bit of definition. It's working perfectly over top of that shimmer. I use cream shadows a lot, and there's a lot of mattes that will kind of grab onto cream shadows in a weird way, and this is not at all. I'm going to switch to this brush, which is the BK Beauty 204. Okay, I'm going to mix between Wonder and Intra. Grabbing a tiny bit of Intra and just kind of tap that into this outer corner. So I'm grabbing right in between here. So I'm grabbing the shade that's right in the middle between Boy and Wonder. And I am going to just softly kind of bring a little bit of color into this look up here in the crease. Now I'm going to kind of clean this up a little bit with a makeup wipe. kind of sharpen that. But again, I'm not getting any fallout from these shadows. I went ahead and added some concealer. I am going to, again, I'm going to grab my little smudge brush from Sigma and I'm going to go in between these two shades. So I'm kind of picking up both Boy and Wonder. And I am going to place this on the lower lash line. I'm going to dip between Feel and Intra. So I'm going to smoke this right into the base of the lashes just to add a little bit of thickness. And then kind of bring it up, kind of following along that line, like right here, kind of following along the line of my lower lashes and kind of connecting it to the upper crease. I'm going to grab this really dark shade. I'm going to grab a little bit of this right here. I am going to place this right here at the base of the lashes on the upper and lower. Okay, so I went ahead and kind of put a little bit of bronzer on and kind of powdered the face. Now, I was not even going to attempt to use this for contour because as we have already established on my channel, me and powder contour, we're not really friends. We don't hang out, we don't go to dinner, we don't go to movies. We are not friends. So I decided that I wanted to kind of tap between like these two shades very lightly. So I'm gonna take my blush brush and kind of tap between the two shades, tap off, woo, and apply a little bit here. And then kind of buff it out with a brush. I love that. That is a pretty blush. Okay, so I am officially done. This is the final look. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the swatches and comparisons. I'm gonna swatch this palette next to other palettes that I have in my collection. And then of course we will get into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so now that we've made it through the swatches and comparisons, let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. I actually really like this palette, and I can see me using this palette a lot with some of my creamy shadows. Is this palette absolutely necessary? No, because you probably already have these shades in your collection, but what I do think that makes this palette unique is the formula. You get zero fallout. When I tell you have no fallout when you get done using this palette, no fallout. It blends like a dream. Never one time did I pick up one of these shadows and have an issue with blend. Everything blended just beautifully together, and it's not so much pigment that you lose control of it and then all of a sudden you just have all this pigment to blend out. Also, I feel like it's like the right amount of pigment, which tells me that this is user-friendly for multiple different people. You don't have to have a lot of experience in eyeshadows to be able to use this palette. I feel like when it comes to like Pat McGrath and like Natasha Denona, those that are extremely pigmented shadows, I love the way that these blend. They are like, they're not even like a buttery formula. They're almost like a satin formula. It reminded me of this Gucci powder. And let me explain why. This Gucci powder has a little bit of a satin texture to it. It's almost like a satin silky texture. And when you put it on and you blend it out, it feels not super powdery, but it doesn't feel super gritty either. It's super soft and kind of silky satin. That's how this palette feels. This palette isn't like soft butter texture. You know how some mattes will be extremely buttery, right? There's a lot of buttery mattes out there. But this one, in my opinion, is more of a like silky texture where it feels like you're just blending out silk. It's so easy to blend. And I feel like if you're somebody that loves matte eyeshadow looks, but you struggle creating them, this will be like a dream come true for you, because I feel like this is one of the best formulas to create an all matte eye. This just nails it. Like, he did such a phenomenal job on this, and I will treasure it forever because it was created by such an amazing artist, and I am here for it. So excited. And I'm also excited to see what he has coming. Like, can you imagine a shimmer shade from Hindash? I know. When I watch Hindash, he is so extremely talented that it's intimidating. I don't know if you guys have felt that way, but when I watch him, I'm just like, there's absolutely no way in dark green earth will I ever be able to create a look like that. I'll damn sure try, but I ain't gonna make any promises, right? So when you see him using something like this, and you also see that there's like a gradient effect, meaning that, you know, one of the shades kind of turns into another shade, you almost feel like it's going to be a little bit intimidating to use. As soon as you put your brush down in the pan and you put it on your eye, that intimidation goes completely out the window. And I love the way that this matte eye turned out. And even though it's not Hindash's work, obviously, because he's like the master, I'm pretty proud of the way that it turned out. With me not having much experience when it comes to eyeshadow, I'm getting there. Practice, you know, is helpful. I'm practicing more and more. I just only started wearing eyeshadow a few years ago. So I don't have 15, 20 years on my belt of creating eyeshadow looks, right? So this is extremely intimidating for me to do a solid matte eye and be okay with the way it turned out. And I wouldn't say it's Hindash's work, but I think it was pretty damn good work for Tara, and I am quite proud of myself. This is a fantastic palette, and I am very happy to have it in my collection. So that's it, you guys. Nothing negative to say. I couldn't think of anything negative to say if I wanted to. Sound out down below in the comment section. Let us know, how do you guys feel about this palette? Did you guys pick it up? How are you guys feeling about it? Share with us in the comment section down below. Let's have a chat about it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.